finally 3 points and a clean sheet and a goalkeeper that doesn't spill it like being there or Onana. Now, I'm telling you, I promise I'm telling you, and I feel like you lot would agree with me. If we had any other goalkeeper that we had available other than Tom Eaton, they are definitely back in that game. Just butterfingers. The fact that the crowd was cheering at any given catch, any given clearance, says everything of where we've been as a fan base. Now, I'm glad I'm on the side that didn't want to lose. I'm glad we got our 3 points. It was, I would say we had about 45 minutes of good performance in the first half. I would say all overall. The second half is kind of like we let off the gas, but we'll talk about it. Smash the likes. Likes are important, lads. Ladettes. Broccoli's, HDMI, PS5s. Subscribe if you're brand new as well. Of course, Man United channel. This is what we do here. But I'm gonna let me break it down. I don't have any faults at none of the players. And what I'm gonna get told, and you got to keep the same energy, right? There's been a lot of talk around the manager. We even got told by rivals that Sunderland are really good and that, you know, we should be looking out for them. That was easy today. Super easy. We never got tested, but that's credit due to our game plan, not individual performances. And also, it's just, you know, like the players are just up for it. You know, like I just look at that back three and I was quite critical of the whole lineup because I saw Mason Mount over Cunha and then he goes and scores a really nice goal set up by Mbumo. So the 10s are connecting. And then also Sesko scoring. A little bit of luck from a flick on, but he still had to be in the right place at the right time and go and poach that goal. So I'm over the moon with that. My thing is winning only 2-0 is my biggest criticism, is the fact that we let go of the gas. And that's just that. It could have been 3, could have been 4. You know, we had a lot of opportunities in the first half and we didn't capitalize. So, and we got a lot of goal difference to make up. But lads, Ladettes, HDMI PS5s, we kept a clean sheet. We got 3 points before the break. It's not all doom and gloom. Now, look, there's going to be a lot of talk around, obviously, the manager and saying that, you know, it wasn't him that got us the game. Look, it doesn't matter how you look at it. It was a newly promoted side. We should be beating newly promoted sides. We don't lose to newly promoted sides at Old Trafford, if I'm correct as well. So at least that's one record that's not taken away from us. But we got 3 points. So I'm not going to say I'm buzzing, but I'm just happy. I'm delighted. It's this whole thing of not winning back-to-back games. And then next we've got Liverpool away. Can you put in a performance again there? Look, we'll see what happens. Liverpool are in a bit of a corner themselves, but you know what happens when you corner a wolf? You just don't want to be in that situation. Got all out attack, and then before you know it, a little bit like Man City, they go and smack us. So look, there's a lot to work on, and the players themselves should be like proud of themselves, because the way we pressed today was what we were seeing in, you know, against the Arsenal game, part of the Fulham game and whatnot. I like that. And I don't know if that is because you start with Mount, but overall, it's a team game. It's a team thing. And Mbumo and Ahmad worked really well together for the first time. In the first half, you know, Masuaku could not handle none of them. You know, the manager tried to flood the midfield, right? A bit like what Fulham did at Old Trafford. And it's kind of annoying that we only get up for games at the moment at Old Trafford. But at least we're not losing there like that. At least something's there. But my thing is, you got to give Amram credit, because all he did, we saw Dalot attack a lot, and then they tried to add the extra body in Enzo Lefebvre. That couldn't work out. Dalot kind of inverted and sat back a little bit just to counter that, and it kind of slowed our momentum. It's like when the rain started, we started picking the ball up and we started going at them. As soon as the rain stopped, we stopped. So wherever the rain follows, we go. It's a bit of a thing, but today's game is not just about the new goalkeeper for me, even though I felt a lot more comfortable about the back. The back line, solid. Can't fault a solid back line. De Ligt, even Shaw, when he's not trying to be, you know, trying not to focus what's going on behind him, which nearly cost us, but it was offside anyways. And obviously Yoro. Bar that, Casemiro has just added a new dimension for me, especially being at home, just being that bit of that defensive prowess that we are so looking for. But it always comes down to how long can that remain. But today, he took a little while to get into the game and he got a goal. He's got his second Premier League goal at least. You know, I think that's 2 in 2 now. So for him, or 2 in whatever you want to call it. But he's got back-to-back goals. Sesko. His all-round game today was phenomenal. You know, flick-ons, holding up the ball. The opposition absolutely hated him. I think there was one instance where he got in behind and he didn't exactly get found out. And that was probably the more annoying thing, that he didn't add on to that extra. And it's night and day difference when you got someone who knows how to do their role up front and just be that little bit effective. Yeah, get your rewards, get your goals, but it should have been more. You know, even when he set up in Bumo, even when he put the ball into Ahmad, it's just like, or even Dorgu should be giving him a better cross at the end of the game. It's just little bits that I look at and thinking we lack a lot. We still lack a lot of final third quality when it does come to these situations. You know, we should be killing these teams and dead and burying. And that third goal should have came, and it never came. And that's not really on the manager, because I quite liked the changes. You know, I can understand. Look, putting Maguire on at the end, seeing out a game, it's more than admirable. You know that Sunderland, as they did all game, right? Crossing the ball. You know, they pressed quite well in the second half compared to the first half, but we just kept beating that with a long ball up to Sesko. It did work. So again, if you wanted us to lose, got to question yourself a little bit. And I understand the bigger picture, but we're in win-win situations. The ball, it really and truly, this is down to Ineos making correct decisions. Right? If they find that we should be able to get performances and wins, and they still have Amrim under question, because we want to see performances and W's. Of course, it's a result-based business, but now he's got one of his toughest runs coming in November, or as soon as we come back in October towards the end, with Liverpool, Brighton, Forest, and also the likes of Tottenham, who have got a solid defence. So look, the tests are coming. Don't worry about that. It will get there if it needs to get there, and we can judge it then. But today, you can look at the team and say, we had it easy, and we made it easy for ourselves for once. You know, even them trying to dive all over the gaff of the pitch, trying to find penalties. They had I would say two opportunities, scraping opportunities. One that was at the back post header, which was at the half time, and of course towards the end when they had that bit of a one-on-one. But Lammens saved it. You know, what's the saying? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. There we go. That's the saying. It was refreshing also to see Ahmad finally pick his senses up and have a good game. Like that was probably the biggest pickup. The fact that him and Mbumo had a bit of a link up, but Ahmad was phenomenal. If you're going to ask me who's your man of match today, I'm going to put it down to Sesko or Ahmad, one or the other. You know, Mbumo getting an assist, you can't go wrong with that. I'm just going to say it would just be nice if the subs came on maybe a little bit earlier and we had a bit more refreshment when they tried to have their little bit, which it didn't make too much impact, but that's the only thing I'm kind of looking towards is just, can we go and do this again? Go and do it again, and we go from there, right? 3 points. Don't be mad. On to the next one. Love.